The views and opinions expressed by the guests of Sasquatch Experience do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the hosts, sponsors, or affiliates of the Sasquatch Experience. As always, listener discretion is advised.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Dia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch Experience. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sasquatch Experience, Monday, October 9th, 2023. There's the train, just like clockwork, although its clock has been off lately. But we love it. Just in case you forgot who we are, folks, I'll go ahead and throw them up on here. I could make everybody do a roll call, but we don't want to do that. I'm Sean the Fort Chop Forker. He's Matt Arner. That's James Baker, Henry the Bigfoot Encyclopedia May, and Vance Nesbitt. Vance enjoying a little Redneck Riviera to kick off or to finish off this Monday night. Thank you to our listeners and viewers on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. You can catch us on just about every major streaming platform and also catch the archives at our podcast at Spreaker. Go to Spreaker.com and search Sasquatch Experience. Take a listen. You can also find us on Spotify. And one more shameless plug. You can also support us, patreon.com/Sasquatch Experience, starting for as little as $2 a month. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can support the show and get ad-free content besides the news, because we always throw a little ad in the news. You're never going to get rid of that, but mostly ad-free and bonus content as we create it and throw it out there. Matt and I have the Cryptic Wilderness investigations going on out in our research area. We'll be bringing you more of those as the cooler months now settle in. And gentlemen, I'm freezing my nuts off tonight. It's chilly here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
it's cold,
right? It's cold here too in northern Illinois.
Henry, how cold is it down in Mississippi?
Only 66 here.
Only 66.
Oh,
They're getting their fucking parkas out right now. But at 66 degrees. Anyhow, it's cold as heck here, and it's not even winter yet. I think that's the sad part. We're just starting fall, and we're already getting kind of. I hope this isn't a harbinger of the winter to come. That's all I'm saying.
It's supposed to be, though. Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, if you walk out in the woods right now, all you're running into is acorns and chestnuts and everything else. All the hard mass is coming down. That's the food that, the deer, the bear, everything else wants to eat because they're going to stay nice and fat over the wintertime. It's all over the place. That's usually a bad sign.
Oh, thanks, Matt, for that optimism.
I'm sorry, but yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And Gwen joining in the chat room, our friend Gwen from Got Knockers. Go and check out her website, Got Knockers. No, Baker, not those knockers, but pardon the parlance, we'll go ahead and make it so. Go over to Got Knockers and check them out, folks.
Yes.
Great show we have for you guys tonight. We are going to be talking about recent sighting reports, something a little different. But there's been some activity going on. We want to talk about it from all over. We got a bunch of different sources, and I know Matt's going to talk about some stuff that's been happening in our area, both current and historical.
Yes.
James Baker's got some very interesting stories from the area he kind of resided in for a little bit. Henry's going to sit there and look pretty as he normally does. And Vance brought the news and whatever else I decided to throw at him tonight.
Woo-hoo.
So everybody's got a little something to bring to the table. But before we get into it, guys, we do have a question. A question from the chat. Our question is from Brad Dodd. Why do they never film a Sasquatch in the TV shows like Finding Bigfoot or the one on Discovery Now? I'm sure he's talking about Expedition Bigfoot. And Brad, I think if they do film it, it would ruin the show because there would be nothing to go after anymore. They would have to transition to like a National Geographic type format, and it's not interesting. When you can't do scary camera cuts and overused bad background sound, it makes it very hard to sell advertising for something that's been discovered. So that's my opinion. I don't know if you guys vary. That's just what I think.
Yeah, I think going out into the woods with a camera crew, a sound guy, a gaffer, and all that other stuff, it really kind of, dampens the I guess enthusiasm for something wild to come out and say hi. But I do remember though there was some, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but on Finding Bigfoot on the last episode that they ever did, which was the special in Ohio and West Virginia, I thought that they did get a decent thermal hit, but then nothing for whatever reason. I think Cliff Brockman was telling the story about it. They were trying to get it with the drone, and whether the drone came down too low or there were some other issues, the thermal hit just kind of disappeared. And I believe that was in West Virginia where they got that. Yeah.
Well, it comes down to the same conversation we have, weekly. And I kind of have a weird reference that happened to me the other day is if you put cameras out and you have 20 people in the field, anything that knows where it lives isn't going to go near it, because like I have game cams all over and I'm finally starting to get pictures that aren't me. You know what I mean? And the worst part was I put one of the game cams. I didn't realize that if you put the game cam under the tree and the limb goes like this, you get a slideshow of 1,100 pictures of the field doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, like, I understand why they don't get anything. I mean, the concepts are solid, but you're never going to catch anything on 10 days of hanging out somewhere.
Correct.
You almost do like a 3-year search and put the cameras up and ignore them for 6 months.
Yep.
Well, I think we've all said over time that the more technology, the less luck you have, or it seems like the less luck you have. And
it seems that way, right? I agree.
Right, and there's 100 different opinions as to why, but I think it mainly is because you're distracted and you're not paying attention. I think it has nothing to do with the fact that maybe it emits sound or what have you. It's the fact that you're not paying attention. And when you're distracted, you're distracted. When Matt and I and Les were out and my son a few weeks ago, very minimal technology. We sat there and we listened. We listened to the environment, and you'd notice just a little bit of wind change. You'd notice. And if you're distracted, you're not even paying attention. But that wind change is important because it messes with your directionals when sound's coming.
Yes. Yeah.
So you really have to, pay attention, I guess, and technology distracts us from that.
Correct. And the other thing, too, is when you get into a windy area like that, and that wind does change direction, then what ends up happening is if you have something that's, coming from the east and you're actually downwind of that, and then all of a sudden you're becoming upwind, now it knows that you're there, where if you're just sitting there by the fire and nothing's going on, and the wind is blowing at your back, something coming up may not know that there's a human there.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad, we want to thank you for that question. Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's a good
kicking us
question.
off with that tonight. It
Yes.
is. We appreciate that. Folks, you can report your sighting 100% confidential, 570-940-9411. That takes you right to the studio line for Sasquatch Experience. If you'd like us to play it, we will. If not, if you just want us to share some among ourselves or we go out and investigate it, we'll do that too. But again, be rest assured it's confidential. That number, once again, 570-940-9411. It's a great way to report your sightings here to us. And one more note is I'll be speaking at the Albatwitch Festival in Columbia, Pennsylvania this weekend, Saturday, October 14th. Going to have a good time down there in Columbia. My good friend Rick Fisher helped putting it on, asked me to speak. He's actually been asking me to come to this for years. This is the first time I've been able to make it happen. So, folks, if you get a chance, come down. It's going to be a little different. I'm going to go into some things that I haven't really dived into before. I'll talk about the standard. We're going to have a good time. So on that note, guys, let's kick this pig and let's get started into tonight's topics, right? Recent sighting reports. And gentlemen, good friend of mine, Lon Strickler, runs the Phantoms and Monsters blog. And every so often, Lon, who's like a second father to me, will send me, shoot me over a message of something happening in the areas I research, okay, which I greatly appreciate because Lon has this long, wide network where he gets a lot of reports coming in, right? That's phantomsandmonsters.com. Once again, I just want to make sure we're sourcing this correctly. And in this post, he sent it to me and then he posted it, creepy human activity at Bald Eagle State Park. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this specifically is because, one, I've spent time at Bald Eagle State Park. Two, there's been a great amount of Bigfoot sightings coming out of that area lately. This is Center County, Pennsylvania, down in kind of the southern, I don't want to say southern, but the really central part of Pennsylvania. Right before you hit that southern terminus, it's right in that central part. And the story goes as follows. They say, "Hi, Lon. In June of this year, I went camping for a night with 4 friends in Bald Eagle State Park in Center County, Pennsylvania. We had reserved a site that was somewhat remote, not near any of the other campsites. After we got there early, we hiked up to the site, set up camp, and then hiked around the area. Later, we made a fire, cooked dinner, and turned in not long afterwards. Around 2 a.m., one of my friends and I couldn't sleep, so we trekked up to the main road. When we got to the road, we stood near the entrance to our site. And as we stood there, a black pickup truck with its lights off appeared out of the woods and passed us very slowly. It was unmarked, but not a ranger. After 45 minutes or so, we decided to head back to bed. One of the girls went off into the woods to take care of some things, and while I climbed back into the tent, I shared with her and got into my bag." I don't know maybe what they were sharing, but we'll find out. After a couple minutes, I heard her moving through the leaves towards the tent coming from my right. At the same time, I also heard the unmistakable rumble of tires on the ground. I stood up and looked out of the little screen window on the tent. It was a perfectly clear night with a very bright moon, so I could see everything. I saw my friend come sprinting back to the tent and duck behind it just as the black truck pulled into our campsite, still with its headlights off, and then it shut off its engine and sat there. The truck was parked about 50 feet from my tent, but I could not see a driver or how many people were in there. I just watched. My friend had ducked down behind our tent, and I could hear her breathing. I could just tell by her breathing that she was terrified, but neither one of us said a word. We just kept waiting for something to happen. Eventually, after 10 to 15 minutes, the truck started up again and then backed up down the narrow dirt road. It never turned its headlights on. I heard it drive back into the direction it had originally come from. My friend burst into the tent a second later. She was freaked out and wondered who was in the truck. After a frantic conversation, we lay down, but we couldn't relax enough to fall asleep. In the morning, we all packed up and headed out as we planned. We checked with the park, and they do not own any black unmarked trucks, nor did any ranger come to check on our site during the night. The reason I'm writing to you about this is I know that you've received several reports from the Bigfoot reports from Bald Eagle State Park. I was wondering if you had heard or read of any other strange human activity at the location. My other two friends strangely never noticed or heard the truck. The entire incident didn't seem right, and it has bothered me since. Now, not directly related to Bigfoot, right? One could make 150 connections to whatever they wanted to with this. But the remarkable thing to me is an unmarked vehicle, right? What the hell was it doing out there in the middle of the night for no reason? Either it was out there for illegal activities, you were going to become a victim, or maybe related to park activities. And honestly, they're not going to tell you if they have an unmarked vehicle anyhow. It's just like, yes, please let me tell you about our secret fleet of vehicles. But then also something similar happened to James Baker and I while we were leaving state game lands one time. And James and I were followed for probably 20 miles, 25 miles by a white van. And I know normally one would suspect James and I in the white van following someone else. But in this instance, James and I were followed. And in fact, it bothered Baker. It bothered Baker so much, he took every which way he could to not even draw him to where we were going. Like he went down alleys and streets I've never seen before. And it followed us pretty persistently. So why would this activity happen? Baker, we can't hear a word you're saying. It's just bubbly. What were you saying?
Till they swung by the police department.
And, but that was way outside the police department jurisdiction out in that area. So I don't know. Matt, law enforcement, what do you make of that, Matt?
Well, in regards to the truck incident, honestly, state parks, and again, I'm being completely honest here, they don't have that fleet of unmarked cars or trucks. If they're going to do something, and if they're doing an operation, most of the time they're in their personal vehicles. So you're not going to see that black unmarked, Chevy or Ford coming through, that's built exactly like the park vehicles. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Second thing is, I know from personal experience and from a story that happened to me about 5 or 10 years ago. I got lost up there, and I was actually in Bald Eagle State Forest, not the park. I was in the forest, and I was fishing Penn's Creek, and I was coming up, I think it was Patty Road, and there was supposed to be a road that cut over to Route 45. So I took that road, but it wasn't and this is before GPS, it wasn't the right road. And I kept seeing the signs that said, we don't do maintenance on this road. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this isn't that bad. Once I got up towards the top, I mean, it was probably one of the worst roads I've ever been on. And thank God I had a little Jeep Liberty at the time, which actually got through pretty good. But I turned around, came back, and I didn't get home till about 3 o'clock in the morning. But this doesn't seem like that. This seems like, the people were probably looking maybe not to do any ill harm to those people, but they may have had some sort of, malintent, either for their own personal reasons.
Right.
I mean, most of the time when I'm sitting there, I carry, when I'm out in the woods anymore. So I'm more afraid of the person on 2 legs than what's on 4. So,
and we've said that many times, man. We've said that several times.
Yeah.
Safety,
and you have to be aware of your surroundings. So, to try not to be a victim, there's a couple things that a person could do. They can put all the lights on around their campsite. I wouldn't go up and question the people, but at least have that visibility so that somebody or something can't just sneak up on you.
Right.
And then obviously if you do have protection, have it out. So,
I would say, and I'm sorry that I interrupt, but I have a first cousin who worked for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, but he used his personal vehicle. It was a
Correct.
pickup truck, and he had a series of glow sticks that you could break. And as he would follow those that were suspected as poaching out of, fire break areas, because he would run the fire breaks, he would suspect something being thrown out of the window. He would crack a glow stick and throw it out so that later on he could go back and see the glow stick and maybe recover whatever firearms or whatever it was that they may have been using at the time. And that's, that was an unofficial vehicle that was being used. This was his personal vehicle, and it was a pickup truck licensed to the state of Wisconsin. But this is what he did all the time to keep the area safe from those. And, he had a couple of strange occurrences that happened, not as weird as what my brother and myself had, but that's not what this whole thing is about. This is just what the Department of Natural Resources would, at least use as a resource to get into those that may be doing nefarious things.
Sure, and that's one thing too, is that besides DCNR, we have other agencies that work in those areas, such as the Pennsylvania Game Commission, the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, and the Water Authority. But definitely with the commissions, with the wildlife commissions, whether it's Fish and Boat or which there is a lot of fishing in that area, or the Game Commission, you have regular wardens. But then you have a second group called deputy wardens. And basically they're kind of like the reserves. They're usually, they don't go through the same training. A lot of them use their own personal vehicles. They basically have to, go through the training on their own. So especially in June during fishing season, you may have had, maybe a guy or two that were, just staking out whether it's a stream or a lake or if it's for hunting, maybe they're looking to see if there's anyone out there, poaching deer, and they're part of the deputy warden program. And again, that would be in a personal vehicle. But like I said, for the guy to be driving with no lights on, and then pulling into the campsite like that, that's
the peculiar behavior.
Yeah, that's creepy. Right.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds more serial killer than
Game
of fish.
And honestly, if it happened to me, I'd be the first one going up to the door saying, "Hey, what's going on? You lost?" With my hand on the handle of my Colt Python.
Matt Arner, victim number one.
Matt Arner's like 6'12". Okay, no one's gonna.
That's gonna give me and Forker plenty of time to survive.
That's true. That's true.
But he's fighting off the door.
Okay.
So let's take this moment to go ahead and take our break. Already, it's the time, and we'll come back, and then Matt will jump into a couple of your reports to give you some time because this is relevant. Then Baker will get to you, and then anything that I have left over, because I have some more, but I want to make sure we all get a chance to participate in this. Folks, stick around. Sasquatch Experience.
All right.
John Forker, Matt Arner, James Baker, Henry May, and Vance Nesbitt. We'll be back right after this. Lower your volume or you're going to lose your ears.
News team, assemble!
Yes, a happy Monday night to all in this crazy, mixed up, screwy type of world in which we live in. And this is the Sasquatch Experience Bigfoot Bullhorn. It's a great distraction. I hope you're all having a wonderful Monday night, listening to dudes chit-chat about the Bigfoot world and staying in concert with what we are talking about. Let me ask a question. Is Bigfoot an extraterrestrial visitor? It is possible that the creature known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch or a myriad of other names known from all over the world Is that an interdimensional traveler? That's a theory now in play with Bigfoot and UFO researchers. Paranormal researcher William Hall said a paranormal world as a whole. James Baker, what do you think of the rectum as a whole? We'll get back to that later. Said the paranormal world as a whole is more connected than people realize. But that is beginning to change, at least from the perspective of those in ground level research. Hall, who began his paranormal research with UFO and aliens, said many of the classic signs from human encounters with otherworldly beings, ghosts, aliens, and Bigfoot, have similar signs, being like disappearing objects and disappearing beings, fast-moving objects, or strange lights. As a result, many are starting to think of the field holistically, he said. Email us at the Sasquatch Experience on your opinion of Bigfoot being an alien. And did Everhart Park have the state post Bigfoot warnings? Well, let's go to Sasquatch Experience field reporter Miss R.T. Fischel for an update.
Did the state warn visitors to Everhart Park that a Bigfoot-like creature might be there? Westchester has Bigfoot, that shy and very elusive creature with extra-large sneakers, been spotted in Everhart Park? A note written on Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources letterhead was recently posted on a tree near the park on West Minor Street and at other county parks. Due to encounters in the area of a creature resembling Bigfoot, we are instructing all park visitors to observe elevated park etiquette, be cautious of your surroundings, and to keep the location of any small children/pets within a tighter scope of awareness, reads the posted release. Following an April Fool's posting of a video starring Bigfoot by Chester County staffers, which showed Bigfoot frolicking around Hibernia Park, County Commissioner Josh Maxwell said that Bigfoot is now hungry. I heard he was heading toward Mabel's for barbecue, Maxwell said. Motorists were urged to use extreme caution since the Southern-style restaurant and Everhart Park are on opposite ends of the borough. Westchester Fire and Police spokesperson Dave March said that there have been no confirmed Bigfoot sightings in the borough and the missive did not come from DCNR. If you see anything that resembles Bigfoot, please contact local police immediately, March said. DCNR did not immediately comment to a phone request. A group known as the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization documents purported sightings of the Big Galoot, and there has been one in Chester County. It was on September 1, 2011, for possible whoops and knocks heard from a home near Nottingham. Whoever reported that incident off Glenroy Road was very concerned about what was going on.
Thank you, Miss Fischel. When we come back, we have an announcement that may require you to wear your extra pointy cowboy boots and dig up a cowboy hat.
You're listening to the Sasquatch Experience.
Refreshing as the land of sky blue waters, land of lake and pine, cool enchantments, hands that be refreshing, hands that be refreshing.
Nothing goes better with fishing trips, a jaunt to the beach, lake, or river than icy cold cans of refreshing Hams beer. And at backyard barbecues, you'll find the cold, fresh taste of Hams will be the life of the party. Pick up a six-pack or a full case of icy cold, refreshing Hams beer today.
Refreshing as the land of sky blue waters, land of lake and pine, cool enchantments, hands that beer refreshing, hands that beer refreshing, hands.
Coming to an October near you, it is the 2023 Texas Bigfoot Conference. This is going to be located at the Jefferson Tourism and Visitor Center, which is located at 305 East Austin Street in Jefferson, Texas. The event runs from October 20th, which is a Friday, and starts at 7 p.m., and runs through Sunday, October 22nd, and ends at 3 p.m. Some of the scheduled speakers will be Dr. M. Mayer, Daryl Collier, Sibylla Irwin, Ashlyn Brown, and more. Friday, October 20th, starting at 7 p.m., there will be a meet and greet dinner with the speakers. And of course, Saturday is the Texas Bigfoot Conference with another eat and greet, or meet and greet rather, with the speakers. And then Sunday, there'll be catered in barbecue. Ticket prices range anywhere from $50 to $500. But there's a roll in the hay with the Bigfoot and try not to be decapitated. I made that part up. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Bigfoot Bullhorn exclusively on the Sasquatch Experience. And remember, till next time, keep your toes in the mud.
Thanks, Vance. Welcome back, Sasquatch Experience. Sean Forker, James Baker, Matt Arner, Henry May, and Vance Nesbitt. Before we went to the break, we were talking about a strange human activity at Bald Eagle State Park, and now we're going to transition over to Matt Arner, where he's going to share a couple sighting stories he has for us.
Sure. Well, today's topic was recent experiences. And the one thing that I wanted to bring up was in the research area. And again, we have a fairly large research area. It encompasses a couple counties. But there is an area up there of particular importance in southern Potter County, excuse me. So the BFRO had a Class B encounter reported on January 18th, 2023. And with this, I'll read over the report. Hunters report loud wood knocks outside of Austin, which is about 35 miles southeast of Bradford. So this occurred 2022 in the winter, approximately December. He actually gives a date of December 27th, 2022, which again wasn't that long ago. The person had said that they were out hunting with their family, and right around 5:15, which is what time the shooting hours go, that is when they started hearing knocks. So he heard a series of knocks, and at the time he did not know if these were coming from family members or anyone else. But when he got to his truck, he saw that his father and grandfather were in the truck, and they did hear the noises. So BFRO had sent out an investigator. I know the investigator very well, Paul Matea, wonderful, wonderful guy. Great on the boots or on the ground investigator. And he's
Great
been up
researcher.
in that area. Yeah, absolutely. And again, this was late muzzleloader season. The person had been up at their camp, never had anything like this happen before. And it was just a one-time thing that he heard these knocks, but these knocks were so sequential. They were so rhythmic. It was a series of about 4 knocks per encounter or per instance. So that in itself is pretty interesting in the fact that where this was, I was able to pull it up on a map, and we don't have official name for our area yet. Are we going to call
Fair
it?
enough.
Yes.
We don't have a name. Right now it's the unknown area.
The area U, we'll stay along those lines. But anyways, it's only about 10 miles from from where we would be at Area U. Now, I'm looking to move my camper from where it's at now in Benazet up to Austin. And this is literally within walking distance of, maybe about 2 miles away from the campground where this particular road is. So
that's compelling,
that
considering
is.
the activity we've had out there, what we
Yes.
know is going on out there.
There's a lot
And
of
then something I just something
Yes.
I just realized, Matt, is that one of the big investigations I did in 2016
hmm
is also not far from this area.
Yeah.
And that was
Yep.
at private hunting, 6,000
Correct.
acres of private hunting land. So
Correct.
very interesting to me. Very interesting
And-
because it all kind of, we've talked ad nauseum about
Yes.
northern PA
Yes.
being a hot spot, but not being recognized for being one.
Correct.
And
So,
we're doing our due diligence to make that more known.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's people generally think about the Allegheny National Forest, and I'm actually going out there on Wednesday and Thursday. So I'll be out there investigating. But when it comes to this particular area, southern Potter County, Cameron County, Elk County, Clinton County, that far western end of Clinton County, even going down to Clearfield, it's a very remote area, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. So, but the reason why I wanted to bring this one up is because we're talking recent, but I found something that wasn't so recent, and I'd like to tell you guys about that.
Go
So
ahead.
there is a blog with it's called the PA Wilds, and they generally write some parts about Bigfoot and different cryptids that are out there. And this is going back from September 30th, 2021. The writer's name is Lou Bernard. I don't know him, but he did an excellent job putting this together.
He's a local guy.
Is he?
Local to
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, excellent writer, and he did a lot of research for this. So he wrote, there was a incident with a fisherman in Nelson Run. Now, the reason I bring up Nelson Run is the campground that we are going to be, possibly staying at is the Austin campground at Nelson Run.
Nelson Run.
Yes. So, and basically, it goes that creek system goes back pretty far into a number of hollows. So, it has that potential. But again, this new a fisherman up in Nelson Run reported seeing a creature walking upright. The hairy creature screamed and beat its chest. The fisherman jumped onto his horse, which was already frightened, and fled the scene. The creature chased the fisherman and the horse, but abandoned the chase quickly. So this is literally 2 miles from where the BFRO report was. This sighting was April 21st of 1897.
Wow.
Yes. So
that's a long time ago.
That is a long time ago. So he does go in and say that there's an area up there called Denton Hill, which was it's now a state park, and they actually have a ski area up there. But back in 1897, there was a person up there that spotted a creature eating a groundhog, and when it saw him, it roared, beat its chest, and jumped towards him. The description on this was about a creature that was 6 feet tall, upright, with an excessively hairy head, and he said it had tusks. So, which is kind of strange, but regardless.
Big incisors, right?
Yes, absolutely. So back in May of 1897, the newspapers were writing that the creature seemed to have headed south towards Clinton County and towards Kettle Creek. And it mentioned that the creature had been frightening, but had not hurt anyone. But it did let the people know that there is this creature. Eventually, there was an argument between the writers from two different newspapers. And the one writer had said that this was just a wild man that was going around. And they, of course, gave it the good old, it must have been an escaped gorilla. So, anyways, I really want to bring that up because, again, we had a fresh encounter, Class B encounter in December of 2022, which wasn't that long ago. And literally 2 miles down the road was an encounter in 1897. So, with that, when you talk about historical sightings, that really stretches. That's over 100 years, So, for something like that, I think it's a really good find to put these two together, and because obviously we did have logging during that time, and we had some other issues, but the areas pretty much remain the same. So, is it possible that there's something out in this area? We don't know. That's what me, Sean, and Les, and James too. Sometimes we're trying to figure out what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and the thing just goes back to 1897, just kind of to show that there's been activity for the long haul.
Yes.
Go ahead, James.
Yes.
Well, I mean, they make valid points, and even in the article that I read, a lot of it has to do with the fact that these people try to use logic to figure out what it might be, and that's what I always think is such the greatest part of this, because a lot of times when you read these articles or you hear the stories, if the person telling you the story only says it can only be a Bigfoot, then I'm more of a disregarder. But if he's like adamantly like, look, it might have been a bear, it might have been this, but I'm just really not sure. I'm listening to that because his verbal cues tell me that he didn't want to see something, and he's not sure what he saw, compared to, I did all the research, I read 16 books by blah blah blah, and it's got to be this, and this is how tall it was, and this is the eyes and stuff. That person to me tells me that I don't believe his story as well. That's like when we talk about the cryptids together and alien encounters, and like the more circles you have to put on the piece of paper, the more I stop listening.
Yep.
It's pretty direct, like you're saying.
Absolutely.
Henry, Vance, any thoughts from you two?
Go ahead, Henry.
Well, that report is fascinating, and I actually have something that I'd like to bring up of possibly the earliest recorded account here in the United States. It comes from right here in Mississippi, from Natchez, Christmas Day, 1721, from a book called Charlevoix, Louisiana, from his journal. First night I lay in the settlement, there happened a great alarm about 9 o'clock in the evening. Upon asking the reason of it, I was told there was in the neighborhood a beast of an unknown species, of an extraordinary bulk, and whose cry did not in the least resemble that of any known animal. Nobody, however, could say he had seen it, and they formed a judgment of its size entirely from its strength. It had already carried off some sheep and calves and worried some cows. I told those who gave me this account that a strange wolf might very well have done all this, and that, as to its cry, people were deceived in those matters every day. I could persuade nobody. They still would have it that it was some monstrous beast. It was heard again, and everyone ran out armed with what he could find, but it was to no purpose. And that was from Christmas Day, 1721.
Wow.
Right?
That's nice.
And that's on the BigfootEncounters.com website, by the way.
So, can we all kind of come to a consensus that since the 1700s to 2023, that the population has decreased because of encroachment of human population? And that's why we don't get these incredible reports like what just Henry just recited?
Maybe not
I think.
population
Go ahead.
decrease, but maybe they've reduced where their footprint is. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Like if you don't want to live near a city and the city's getting larger, what do? You move farther out.
Right.
Same concept.
Right. No, and that's understandable. And look, there's 100,000. Well, there's more than that. There's millions of acres
Millions and millions of
acres of the U.S. that are still undeveloped and pretty much undiscovered. And maybe that's where this indigenous creature is moving to. I don't know, but wow, that's pretty fascinating with these stories coming from the 17 and 1800s. Yeah, it's got to hit you over the head somehow.
Sean, you had a point before I cut you off.
Well, I don't know if it's a point as much as it was just a general kind of statement to that, which was, and I lost it, and it'll come back to me, and I hate when that happens.
Sorry.
So let's carry on. No, it's okay. It was more along I think talking to what Vance was saying. Is it encroachment? I don't know if it's encroachment or if people are just becoming more familiar with what's out there. Like in the 1700s, what was in the woods is still kind of foreign to a lot of people unless you were native to the region, right? So if you've never seen a bear before, you see something like that, this new mystery creature is very different to you. What is said thing, right? I imagine it's what non-native people thought when they first saw the gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
So as people get more acclimated and understanding that this isn't unusual, this is a real creature, the thought process changes. I think encroachment, the only thing it's done, Vance, has potentially increased, with my watch, has increased the, Matt, you know what I'm talking about there,
Yep.
has increased the frequency of people interacting with these things.
Right.
Well, and I state again, as we talk about areas that aren't populated or areas, whatever, like if you go through, like that one sighting was Louisiana. There's parts of Louisiana, it takes you 2 days to get there, and they're finding creatures that should never be there that are, like the monkeys, and all these other creatures that aren't supposed to be there that are flourishing because,
Yeah, and I agree with you, James. This all goes back to the whole concept of that time era in the 17 and 1800s. Why the hell did you name this Ape Canyon? Why did you name this area, Devil's Valley? Oh, there had to have been something there that created that kind of influence to name the area that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree.
And I think
Go ahead.
I think that's valid because the fact is, now some of the names were carryovers from what the Native Americans called them. They just Americanized it,
Right.
But why did the Native Americans call it that?
Exactly.
Why
is it on their totems? Like. Yeah. Why are these creatures in their culture? Why are these creatures in their totems? Why are these creatures in their scripture to carry on from generation to generation?
Mm-hmm.
If this was just a fallacy, I just don't see that would have carried over. I really don't. Yeah, right.
James, you brought some stories you wanted to. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say though, it's just, in Henry talked about down in Mississippi, and then you have a place like this where again you had that sighting back in the 1800s, over 100 years ago, and then literally 2 miles down the road, you have you have an encounter, maybe not perhaps a sighting, but you have at least a Class B encounter. Fairly recently, within within the past year. So, yeah, it's really makes you think.
Oh,
Absolutely. Baker, you had some
Well-
stories you wanted to share with us too. We got about,
Mhm.
take the time you need.
Okay. Well, I mean, I found a couple of sightings, and the reason they stuck out with me is I used to live in the area that these sightings are happening. There was a sighting in 1980. I'm going to read at least the article I got was the Moorhead State Public Radio by Wendy Mitchell. In 1980, in October, there were 2 or 3 sightings of a creature that was 7 foot taller, 7 foot or higher, white hair, pink eyes, 400 pounds or more. Some people saw it during the one woman said that she saw it and it had gone through her screened-in porch and stole from her freezer some frozen chickens. The other gentleman had a barn, and it robbed his barn of some chickens. So the thing must like chicken, which I can't really get out. That's how you get 400 pounds, is by eating chicken. Not that non-breaded stuff. We're talking the full blown. Henry, that deep South food.
Yeah.
But all these reports were the same thing, is that when they tried to get near it, it would run, or it never charged them, it seemed. The other thing is that the other reason this report stuck through my head is that afterwards, and once they put it on the TV that this was happening in the Johnstown, that county area, then they had 4 or 5 hoaxer sightings. Some woman was buying groceries and this hairy thing tried to take her cart, and some, whatever. And
That was just a native to Johnstown.
yeah. If you've ever been to Johnstown, a lot of weird things happen in Johnstown. A lot of one-way streets that go nowhere. You can wind up in the woods really quickly. But it's a wooded area. I mean, it was in the 80s. I know I was out there. I think I was in the 90s to 95. Yeah. I was out there. And the thing is there is just woods all around it. But a lot of these sightings say a lot of the stuff we see, and this is before we had the internet and we had the local newspaper.
Right.
Would say, so how do, we always talk about the familiarity, though. If you look at the 2 reports, they're equal. They saw about the same thing. It likes chicken. It wasn't a bear, because there's not an imbalance unless there was a strange albino bear with pink eyes, which, hey, white hair, pink eyes, is plausible. Okay. But it's weird that, you look at these different sightings and you see the same connections, I guess would be the word. Even when you look at the sightings that Henry mentioned compared to what Matt mentioned, there's still some play in there that you're like, oh, that's kind of like what happened here, or that's what happened here. But I did that with a simple, I simply searched Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania, and then I saw one that went to a county that I knew. But I mean, if you look through these sightings, even if you go in a simple Google search and look through 3 or 4 sightings, look at the phenomenon that's happening, that you've got 10 non-related people in different areas that are seeing about the same thing. And then we talk about bears. Sean showed a book earlier, What Bears Know. I think, was it called What Bears Know? What the Bears
Know.
What the bears. But if you know anything about bears have a 30 to 50 mile radius that that's their area. It could be the same with this during, there could be places, it might be in one county for a little while because that's where the food is. And then it moves on to 2 more counties over. and you don't, and then you don't really put these together until you have sites like the BFRO or guy like me that randomly. Yeah, well, what I'm trying to get is consistency here. Is the fact is like if you look, I sent them a PA map earlier today. Like you look at sightings in Pennsylvania, and like you could tell that we've had so many sightings. It's just the problem is we don't get the report effect, as much,
right. And
but
let's all keep in mind too that no wildlife, whether it's birds, bears, Sasquatch, or any other cryptid animal, they don't have a recognition of boundaries of states, counties. They don't know.
Right.
They just
That's
move.
critically important. Yeah,
they see it
geographic
as other
boundaries are
animals.
they're only important to us. Right? They're not really. I mean, I'm sure these animals are ranged, which is more of a natural boundary, but they're not respecting Jim Bob's property over your property.
Not at all.
And also, something else to point out, guys, is that the behavior that's described in James's reports that he was talking about, items being stolen from back porches and freezers. When I got stuck out on Old 14, the gentleman told me that a deer that was hanging on his back porch was just taken and moved. There was no drag marks to indicate it was dragged. It was lifted off the hook and took off his porch and walked away. There's reports from the Amish in Salona where a Bigfoot broke into the storeroom and took some canned goods from the storeroom. Right, so there's stories, and we go back to the Hanubi, Oklahoma encounters, where part of the thing that was attracting this was the deep freeze of the back porch.
Yes.
Yeah. So this behavior is important that we, even though they're thousands upon thousands of miles apart, as I destroy the things on my desk, they relate because they create correlations and they weave the data. They weave it through. The data tells a
common
story,
thread,
and there's
there
behavior.
is a common thread.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep. I totally agree.
We talk about boundaries, and I have a perfect story that explains that. Deer.
No means no, James.
Okay, now hey. Rewind. Never mind. Hey. I'm usually the one getting touched and tell people I don't want to be touched. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, and also, Porky, remember last time you made a comment like that? We were in a basement. Okay,
Yeah.
Anyway,
boy,
clarifications needed. Back to Baker.
If we ever get Coleman on this show, we are going to tell that story. But okay, so anyway, my fiance, she works at a old folks home, which is about 5 acres. They have about it started with 4 deer, now it's up to 9. But every year they add deer because deer make other deer. But those deer know the boundaries of that acreage, and the surrounding area is a hunting free zone, and they know. And same now, you take a given animal with the brain the size of a peanut that's basically runs on some brains, but mainly is instinct and what it's learned from whatever. It knows that it doesn't go farther than this far in the woods. Otherwise, there's people with guns. You also look at animals like in Africa and some of these other countries that they put the animals on the preserve. The animals know the reach of the preserve. They might not know that now you've stepped into non-preserved land, but they know when they cross that weird rock that's been right there, there's people that might shoot them or hurt them. Because I'll tell you now, when I drive through that area to go drop her off or pick her up, those deer don't care I exist. They just look at me, hey, whatever. The same with my land. I got 3 acres. Those deer come right up to where I'm at watching me because they see I'm not a threat. And I think the same thing with a creature that's lived in that area for hundreds of years. It knows, hey, don't go past this river because that guy, there's been death. Don't go past this mountain because there's a city that could cause you trouble. You know what I mean? Like they don't maybe not talk like we're talking now, but there's a communication thing where, everywhere the light touches, but don't go over there. That happens.
It is funny, and I'll just bring this up really quick because just going into that whole conversation about knowing boundaries, we have a pretty exclusive gated community down the road from us, and it backs up against the Broad Mountain, and the Broad Mountain's loaded with deer, and there's always a ton of hunters out there, and you'll see these deer all the time until deer season. And guess what? They all travel to the gated community and they just hang out and they eat and they know. And then as soon as deer season's done, they head back up the mountain. Yep.
It's getting cold. We need to go to our winter place so we don't get shot.
Yep.
You know.
Very good. Guys, we're at that 10 o'clock mark, which means we're going to have to save the rest for a part 2. We got a lot of these damn part 2s that we got to catch back up on. You know, if they didn't listen to the last episode with Jay Michael,
tune in next time.
Spider Walk, you need to go back and listen to Jay Michael. You need to get freaked out with the Spider Walk. And we're going to have more stories. In fact, I might record some bonus material for our Patreons so they can get a little extra for this. We spent a little time on this show, trying to find some good stories, and time is just of the essence. So we got to make sure we make the most of it. Folks, next time we'll be back in, it looks like the 23rd, as we get right into the Halloween season. So we'll have another show for you. We'll try to find, as in not current, but in the past, we've done these shows, the spookiest Sasquatch stories we can find. We'll do that for the next show. Until next time, guys. Henry, give them those beautiful words.
Y'all be good. Be good at it.
Keep on squatching, folks. Check us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I guess it's not Twitter anymore. X. Sasquatch Experience at Squatch EXP.
Post office.
Figure.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review wherever this podcast is consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook or email us squatchexperience@gmail.com. Keep on squatching.